What's good, people? Ross out here in Singapore, and thank you so much for joining me on the Night Owl podcast. You guys, it's been a fantastic year in a lot of ways. There have been some places where I could have used a little bit of help, and I probably should have slept a little bit more, but you know what? I'm okay. I'm doing it the best way I know how. I'm trying to read my own energy, and sometimes it's the deadline that drives me, sometimes it's the energy that drives me. But either way, I'm actually having fun with what I'm doing. I'm living life on my own terms for the most part. There are some places where I'm still in survival mode, some places where I do have a choice, and I'm doing the best that I can with what I know. And as much as I can, I'm trying to reach out to people, get involved with the community, build a community, and hopefully with all of the discussions and all of the ideas and perspectives that I get access to, I'm learning a little bit more of what else I could possibly offer and how else I could possibly serve you guys. Because ultimately, what I want to do is serve the community. I want to build a community so that my daughter has a network of people that she could go to if she really needed any help. And I want to be able to build that community in such a way that not only her generation, but my generation and the generation after mine, even the generation before mine, I want all of us to be able to come together and understand that no matter where you are in life, no matter how late you want to start or how early you want to start, everything is possible as long as you feel that you are driven to do something about it, right? So I want you to have that enthusiasm. I want you to have that support and to be able to ask people within my community, if they have any ideas or experience with something that you might be trying to work on at the moment or trying to establish for yourself. With the amount of people that I've spoken to, the amount of people that I've interviewed this year itself, I think there's plenty of experience and wisdom to go around. So with that being said, I want to actually call on one of my old friends, Wildlove Company, Chantel out in Canada, actually posted this a while back. It's a relationship tip, and it's something that I feel very strongly about. It says, do not play the mind reader game. Nobody is a mind reader. No matter how good you think you know each other, this doesn't work. A healthy relationship requires us to speak up about what we want and what we need. And honestly speaking, another quote comes to mind. Assuming makes an ass out of you and me. Now, I know our natural abilities allow us to fill in the gaps of a story where we don't know all the details, but that's actually really dangerous. That means you're answering on behalf of somebody else rather than asking them what actually is going on. I don't know how many times I've assumed that I did something wrong and that's why my daughter is upset at the moment, and come to find out it wasn't me at all. It was something else that she was really upset about. Maybe it was something that she was trying to draw and she didn't have quite the skill set that she wanted to be able to draw it the way that she saw it on screen, or maybe she built something out of Lego and it just happened to break down and I walked past and I said something to her and she threw a temper tantrum, so I assumed it was me. But that's what I'm saying. When you assume, you make an ass out of you and me. And I would love for you guys to take a break from filling in the gaps of all these stories where you don't know all of the details and ask the question. You may be a fool for a moment when you ask the question, but you will have the wisdom going forward and you will know what it is that you need to do from then onwards. Whereas if you don't ask and you make up some story about what you think is going on based on a couple of clues here and there, and you make a mistake because that's not at all what happened, it could mean destruction of a relationship, or even the fact that you've hurt someone beyond repair because you didn't ask for permission or you didn't ask for the details. There have been many times where I assumed, very big assumption here, I assumed my mom didn't like me. I mean, what mom doesn't like their kid, right? I mean, I'm kind of cute sometimes, but I assumed at certain points in my life that my mom didn't like me and that's why she behaved the way she did. I didn't realize until way after, when we finally got past all the hurt and the pain and the anger and we sat down and have a conversation, I realized then that it wasn't that she didn't like me, it was that she didn't have a choice. And my behavior at the time was making her not having a choice, that aspect of her life, not having a choice, I was making it more difficult for her. So I didn't see the whole picture and she wasn't forthcoming with the information at the time because at the time it wasn't my business. It was her business. And I wasn't in a capacity to be able to understand what she was telling me anyway. It would have probably gone even further than you don't like me. It would have been like, oh, so you're choosing this person over that person. So long story short, I used to assume that my mother didn't like me. And that was why she picked on me, and that was why I always got in trouble. No, I think, now that I know better, that she was depending on me to help her through sometimes. She wasn't in a position to be able to ask for help in so many words, but she was depending on me to be able to hold the fort together sometimes when she had to go out and work and I had to take care of the brothers, right? But because she didn't say it that way and because they would fight and I would get in trouble because they were fighting, I took it to mean that she doesn't like me and she preferred the boys because they never got in trouble. And I guess it was just, the luck of the draw. I happened to be born a girl and it was the worst thing ever. So I assumed a lot of things and it actually tore apart our relationship for a very long time, to the point that I just didn't like even being in the same room with her. I knew one word and we were going to go back into fighting each other. So it was difficult in that regard. Other times I've assumed with my ex-husband, I would assume that he actually was in a position to be able to help me with some things, and I thought I would ask him. And when I got shut down, he wouldn't offer an explanation, so I made up the explanation for myself. I figured he just didn't want to help me. He thought that I was be able to handle all of this by myself. He thought that, maybe he's always done this before with all of his ex-girlfriends, so he expected me to be able to handle things as well. I don't know. I made up a bunch of nonsense, and instead of asking him why, because honestly, I was afraid to ask him why and find out what the answer was, I just assumed. I made up the story for myself. It was safer to me. And so by doing that, I tore apart our relationship a little bit further. Now, I'm not saying I'm the one to blame for all of these problems. We both had our fair share of nonsense that we could have avoided, but because at the time I was afraid. I was afraid of losing him. I was afraid of him being mad at me. To be honest, there were plenty of behaviors that I was exhibiting that I could have definitely avoided, but the things that I was doing was to try to get out of getting into trouble, try to get out of feeling any pain, try to avoid him being mad at me, because every time he got mad at me, it kind of tore me down a little bit. So I was doing what I thought I could to survive, and in the meantime, I was actually tearing apart the bond that we had, because I was assuming a lot of things and I was not coming to him directly for the answers. I was filling in the gaps myself. I was writing his story without his permission. And that is why I'm saying when you assume something rather than ask a question, you make an ass out of you and me. You put our relationship in jeopardy, which also begs the question, if you're afraid to ask anything, why is it you're afraid? You need to be able to look at that honestly as well. What is it about this relationship that you're afraid of asking this person for? What is it that in the past has taught you that you should be afraid? Is there any reason that you have to be legitimately afraid? And if that's the case, where does it come from? What is it about? And is this something that you could actually talk to this person about? Because to clear it up would actually save you a lot of heartache and a lot of anxiety. So I hope this makes sense. I'm not sure if you understand where I'm coming from with this, but I really do feel like a lot of times we tend to fill in the gaps on a story and hope to God that that's actually what's happening, because we're too impatient to wait for the answer. We're too scared to ask for the answer. So we'd rather just fill it in ourselves and then make decisions based on this fabricated story that we've made up in our heads now. And this is where a lot of miscommunication comes in. A lot of decisions that we make that can be detrimental to the relationship tend to happen. And it could be all avoided if we would just open up and ask. Now, in recent times, what I've learned to do instead of make up stories is take the chance, just ask the question and then see what happens. If they yell at me, they yell at me. If they don't, they don't. But at least I have the question answered. Sometimes I get a straight answer. Sometimes I get a sarcastic answer. But the point is, I've taught myself to just ask the question. Just get it over and done with. It's 2 seconds. Just ask the question and see what happens. Because the longer I wait, the more tempted I am to fill in the blanks, the more tempted I am to fabricate this wildly magical story about why things don't work out the way that they do, and the more likely I am to be way off base. I've had a lot of people come to me and say, you know what, I used to have this friend and they were so close to me and I don't know what happened and they don't talk to me anymore. And I tell them, go back and look at the behavior. When did the behavior change? What is it that happened? What were they telling you was happening in their life at that time, if you can recall? And if you have a chance, go ask them, hey, where did we go wrong? I really missed your friendship. Be honest. If you can ask honestly and say, hey, you know what? I miss you. You were a really great friend. I don't know what happened that we don't talk the same way that we do anymore, but I would like to make amends. Can we talk? Can we sit down and discuss this? And chances are they say yes or no. There's only 2 choices there. And if they say no, obviously you've put the olive branch out and they rejected it. But if they say yes, you have nothing but the friendship to gain from that point onward. So like I said, there are no stupid questions except the ones you don't ask. And please, when it comes to another person's frame of mind or the reason why they do something, don't make up the answer for yourself. Go ask them directly. It's better if it comes from them. And if they're not in a position to be able to answer, then See if you can eliminate you being the cause. It's something that I've always done. Did I do something that made you upset? And sometimes they get upset because you asked that question, but at least you asked. If you can eliminate yourself, then you know, hey, you know what? It's not me. Maybe I can support them without knowing the details because I can just be here with them instead. So I hope this makes sense. If you have any questions, please drop them in the comments below, but please don't be a mind reader. It never, ever works out well because God only knows what goes through their mind. As much as you think you know your own mind, sometimes you can't track the path of all of your thoughts. They go haywire after a while. They run off course by themselves. So if that can happen to you, imagine what can happen to them. You hear what I'm saying? They could have seen something that triggered something that had nothing to do with you, and they're upset and they're trying to sort it out. So when you enter their thoughts or when you break through their thoughts to ask them a question, be as gentle as possible. Be as straight to the point as you can. No beating around the bush, no hinting. Just ask the question. Hey, are you okay? You seem off. You seem different. You seem upset. Can I help you? Would you like coffee? Any of those things. Just very simply get to the point and ask the question because mind reading doesn't work in a relationship. You might as well just get them to tell you the answer. You hear what I'm saying? So I hope this was helpful. And if you have any questions, drop them in the comments and I will answer them as quickly as I can. Thank you.